Hey guys, it's Sola. Today we are going to be having a look at camera tracking as part of a little section on tracking periods and the kind of stuff you can do with it, what After Effects can do now, what you can do with that tracking data, all this kind of stuff. I think this is quite interesting and covers kind of many simple basic compositing techniques. So today we're going to start with this clip, so let's just play this back. It's a simple pan across some landscape. We've got some sea, got some trees, and obviously some cliffs. There's nice depth. So as in the tutorial where I taught you about depth, you'll see stuff close to the camera is moving a lot quicker than stuff back here. So if we look at this point here in the screen, it is barely moving. And the stuff here at the front is moving quite drastically, and everything in between is moving at different levels of parallax, which is again what I taught you yesterday. I think it was yesterday, might have been the day before, anyway, on the tutorial where I cut the photograph up. So what we're going to be doing today is having a look at how we can track this and get some data out of it, and then what we can do with that data. So the first thing I'm going to do is select my footage, and down here, so what I'm going to do is first of all, I've already analyzed this one, so analyzed. I'm just going to make a new composition with this footage. So there we have it. So it's a 10-second clip provided by Artbeats, by the way. This is a free clip. You can go over there and get it. I'm just going to make this 2 seconds long for the sake of showing you this. I'm going to trim. There we have it. So we've got a 2-second clip, and I'm going to right click and go down to track camera. This is so much easier than it used to be. You used to have to get plugins, you used to have to go into 3D programs like Buju and things like that. But now After Effects has a pretty robust, I mean, it's not perfect by any means, but for 90% of the jobs you're going to be doing, it'll work just fine. If you're going into advanced, as you can see up here, it's analyzing my frames. If you go into advanced camera tracking and you need to do way more complicated stuff, After Effects, I'm going to try and explain the limitations and the things it can do and the things it can't. So let's just play this back. Now you can see if I keep my plugin selected and I drag through, we've got these little X's. If I play through, these X's aren't there unless you click render track points, in which case you can render this footage with these track points, if that's the kind of effect you're going for, although I can't say I've ever used that in my life. So let's have a look at the options we have up here. So like I said, as long as you got the thing selected, you're going to get these points. If you deselect the effect, you're going to lose them. So if you ever think they've disappeared. Now this has been analyzed. Now first of all, you got a shot type. You can, by default, you can just get it to analyze automatically, and most of the time that's going to do a great job. But the number that you're looking for is, if you come down to advanced down here, is you're looking for the average error. Now anything below 1 pixel is pretty much great. The closer you can get it to 0, the better, basically. And as we can see here, we're pretty damn close to 0, which means we've, hopefully got a really good track. This isn't always accurate. Then again, this is a really easy shot to track. There's no erratic movement. We've got quite a smooth scene. Things aren't popping in and out of the frame, so you would expect it to do a pretty damn good job, and it has. You can try and improve this, and I'm going to click detailed analysis. Now I have to say this doesn't always work. In fact, rarely does it actually come off any better, but we're going to try and analyze this even more. So there you go, and it's now trying to reanalyze it and try and do a more detailed job, and I'm going to try and get it down under 0.23, but you're going to see it might work, it might not. I haven't actually tried this. Most of the time it actually finishes a bit higher. There you go, so 49, so it's trying to do more points, but it hasn't really worked, so I'm going to undo that and come back to this if it reanalyzes it. So as you can see, it's a pretty slow process. I'm only analyzing 2 seconds here, but it doesn't matter how fast your computer is, it still has to go through all these frames and pick them all up and read them and stuff. So just one thing you've got to be aware of. Okay, so we've got this built. 0.32 is pretty damn good, like I said. If there are points in this where you're like, oh well, that's completely screwed up, in this case all the points are pretty standard, but let's say for some reason you were on a boat and a guy walked past and suddenly you got points popping up all over him which you know are throwing off your track. You can right click on them and delete the selected point, and then it will basically recalculate, and as we can see that's made our analysis worse, so I'm going to come back. But if you did have points that are messing it up, you can try deleting them and see if they help your error. Alternatively, you can also I'm going to do this in a null composition again. Again, not particularly useful for this one, but you can, let's just say you knew there was a section in here which was going to mess your track up, so you can I'm going to invert this. Let's just say there's something on this coastline which we knew was going to mess our track up. We can mask it out and then right click, pre-compose. So we're going to go to I'm not sure you can do it from there, layer, pre-compose, Control Alt Shift C. I'm going to move this into new composition, which is basically going to make it's going to bake this mask into that After Effects. So now we're going to get this is basically a piece of footage now, and then you can just go ahead and track camera, and then what it's going to do is it's going to track everything apart from where we've cut this hole out. And again, if you can rotoscope or like mask out a guy walking past the camera, this is really going to help your track. So that's kind of good to know. So let's go back to our, so I've done this in here because I've analyzed it over 4 seconds, and we come into here. As you can see, the longer the clip went on, the more it struggled, so it's gone up to 0.46. So maybe we'll just stay with our first clip here, which we know is pretty accurate, for 2 seconds. And what we're going to do is, if we select this, we can create a camera like straight up. We can also make these points bigger or smaller if you want them easier or harder to read. If you have targets, so you can see targets here, you can make these bigger or smaller. And you got little sliders here as well for them. You can do the 2D, so this is like the 2D track that After Effects then created the 3D, and then the 3D is solved, so it tries to make bigger points bigger and smaller points smaller in the distance. Now if I hover over here, you can see we're getting these little triangles, and what this means is I can select any of these points and use them as points of reference. Now so if I click any of these, I can right click, create text in the camera, solid in the camera, and null in the camera. So for just now, I'm going to create, if we come into here, I'm going to move across and I'm going to try and create a boat. So I'm going to come to that point now. Let's just say I want my boat there. Let's assume that's like a pretty solid point in terms of what I think. See, I think that's moving about right. Or maybe this blue point here. So I'm going to select it. I'm going to right click, I'm going to create a camera because we need a camera to do 3D data, as I've already explained. I'm going to make a null as well. So what this is going to do is create like a little null. Now I've not done nulls, and I'll probably do nulls tomorrow in terms of like what a null is, why it's powerful, and why you should know how to use them and what they can be used for. But for now, just understand that it's, a null is basically an invisible point in space that has all the basic transform properties, but in this case I'm just using it as a point of reference. I'm just saying in this scene it's made of 3D, and because we've got a camera and a null, if we look into our custom view, move back, there's our null, there's our camera, and what's happening here, if I select my camera, is the camera itself is moving, and that's how the After Effects tracker has interpreted the scene. So if I were to come into here and go into my project, I found a little picture of a boat somewhere. Here it is, strong little boat. Obviously not a very realistic boat, but you know, if I'm going to make it pretty small, I'm going to make it 3D. Okay, so you can see it's kind of sitting in the world now, but if we look at it in our custom view, it's right by the camera, so you can understand why it's struggling to keep up with the camera. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put it exactly where this point in space is. So The reason I did added a null is because I know that's where I want my boat to go. So what I'm going to do is hold shift when I select my boat, pick whip, and come here and watch what happens in the screen. It's going to jump instantly to where that point is. So again, you hold shift and then go to here. Now if I come back to my active camera, we're going to see now the boat is sat on top of that null perfectly, and that's great. So if I play this back, obviously the boat is like way too big, because if we look at the size of the trees, so I can now come to my boat, scale it down, probably something like that, and there we go, we've added the boat in there. And you know, I can add motion blur, you know, just to add a subtle difference. And if I move in here, you can see there we got our little boat. So I think that's going to cover it for the basics of 3D camera tracking. We'll go in tomorrow and mess about with this a bit more, but I just wanted to offer an introduction into 3D camera tracking, and then afterwards we'll go into 2D tracking, and maybe I'll explain how nulls work as well. I might have to do that in a separate tutorial. So who knows what will be tomorrow, but hopefully you've learnt a bit from this. Go ahead and start messing about. My recommendation would be to just get your iPhone or your smartphone or whatever, go out and shoot some footage of you walking around, bring it in and try tracking it, and you know, create a camera and some text and see if you can put some text into this scene and have some fun with that. So I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.